Hey guys, I'm Sage Valentine, and I'm back to do another review of AMC's The Walking Dead, Season 6, Episode number 15. So, this episode was pretty awesome. I say awesome a lot if you've been watching my reviews. And I think that the season finale is definitely going to break quite a few hearts. And it's definitely going to throw us for a loop. I can't 100% say what's going to happen because I've avoided all the spoilers that have been posted in the various Walking Dead groups on Facebook and the different spoilers that have been posted on Tumblr and everywhere else in regards to that episode because I want to be surprised. Despite the fact that I did read the source material, the comic books, the compendiums. So I do have a general idea of one thing that's going to happen. But as far as everything else, I don't know. But the one thing I can say in regards to this episode is that I don't think that Daryl is dead. I think that he's injured and that the bullet went through his shoulder and came out. And that's why all that blood and flesh hit the camera. I also think that Carol is okay and she somehow, some way wandered someplace that we are probably about to discover. And I also think that the stress is finally getting to Maggie, but I do not think that she lost her baby. I think those cramps are kind of a wake-up call that Maggie needs to calm down and chill. I don't know about you guys, but I am enjoying these lighthearted scenes that start some of these episodes because of the fact that a lot of carnage is coming, violence is coming, and we just need something positive, something to cleanse the palate, as they said on Talking Dead, because what awaits is definitely going to upset a lot of people. As far as like those different scenes in the beginning of the episode, there was Maggie and Glenn showering, and Glenn was trying to comfort Maggie, and you could tell that Maggie was really stressed. There was the Abe and Sasha scene where they were changing posts and they were looking at each other lovingly. Meanwhile, Rosita was looking at both of them like, ugh, ugh, and I was laughing, but like I said previously, I'm glad that the show didn't have it, like the storyline for the whole relationship thing between Abe and Sasha, play out as though Sasha stole Abraham. Abraham just bounced. Sasha didn't make him go anywhere. Then there was the scene with Carl looking at the gun, and as they said on The Talking Dead, there was a symbol. It did kind of, now that I think of it, look like a bat with barbed wire wrapped around it. I'm sure there are some people that are concerned about this romance between Rick and Michonne. Quite a few people online have been, speculating about Michonne's mortality on this show because of the fact that Lori died in childbirth and Jesse died with the situation with the Big Chop. But Michonne has her eye focused on what's going on, and Rick does as well. Would their relationship be considered a liability if this was like anybody else? Probably, but Rick and Michonne are pretty much business as usual, and despite the fact that Rick wanted to continue cuddling and possibly make love with Michonne again, Michonne was like, no, I have to get up because Maggie has us on this schedule. She believes we're going to be attacked and we need to be ready for this attack. So clearly, I don't think there's much to worry about as far as those two. And yes, Michonne was kidnapped by those saviors, but I still don't think that we should be too worried about Michonne and Rick at this point. I think that they are okay. Or at least that's what I'm telling myself because I'm trying to be positive because I really don't want anything to happen to anybody. And yes, I did read the source material, i.e. the comics, and I do have an idea of what could happen, but still I'm trying to remain positive. Now, as far as Carol leaving, there's probably a lot of people who are saying, well, why would Carol leave when they need her the most? Because Carol is struggling with everything that has happened. And I think that the turning point had to be what happened to Sam. and that really changed her. And I also believe that quite possibly Carol might be losing it a little bit, trying to cope with everything, because with murder, with death, especially on these shows, there's always repercussions. Quite a few of these characters can't just kill and not have it affect them, unless they're one of the crazies like Gareth or the Governor or Joe and the Hunters or the Terminites or even Negan and the Saviors. They can't kill without conscience. Now, as far as Carol's little journey on the road, I thought that was pretty badass. Like, the fact that she had prepared for so long and had that bag of food and had that coat and was sewing in the lining in the coat, the gun into it. And the fact that she knew what she was going to do and she didn't pop out of that car when those guys shot up her tires and kind of shot up the car. Like, she was ready for them. Do I think that she was scared? Yes. But she was prepared, and she kept telling those guys, like, or the saviors, like, listen, just leave. I don't want to have to do this. And then all of a sudden, she fired on all of those saviors. Now, she didn't kill all of them, because there was that one dude who was alive. There was the dude in the front, and then there was Hero, the guy who was talking to her. Now, she killed the dude that was, like, I think he popped up and he ran over and she kind of impaled him on one of the spikes outside of the car. Then there was Hero, who she told him to drop the gun, and then he fired. I guess he must have hit her because she's bleeding. But then again, that blood could be coming from the man that was sitting in the front passenger side of the truck. Because remember, he was shot in the shoulder. So, I mean, the blood could be dripping from him. I'm trying to remain positive as far as Carol, because I don't want anything to happen to Carol at this point. And I feel like Carol is in danger. And after 6 seasons, I'm well aware that people have to die. However, I don't want Carol to just get killed off like that. Like, if she's going to die, then let her die in a badass way, the way that others have died on this show. That is why I do not believe that Carol is dead. I believe that Carol somehow, some way, found her way somewhere. Because I don't believe that blood belongs to her. I think it belongs to one of those savior guys that's on the ground. And I think that somehow, some way, that savior guy found his way on the same path that Carol is on. And when Rick and Morgan came upon that barn after following the blood, and they saw that guy, and the guy is covered in armor, and he was talking about he lost his horse. That is a nod to the comic book. So, spoiler alert, comic spoiler for those of you. Basically, there is a settlement called the Kingdom. And the leader's name is Ezekiel. And he's a pretty cool guy in the comics. And the thing is, he has people that defend him and see him as a king. And some of those people ride horses. Just wait till we see the Kingdom. It's pretty cool in the comics. And judging by the way that the hilltop was shown, I think that the Kingdom is going to be just as awesome. And you guys are going to love it. And Robert Kirkman promised that Ezekiel's friend will pop up. So I'm waiting to see her. I just can't wait. I don't even want to spoil it for you guys because she's that awesome. I thought that scene where Morgan and Rick were catching up to Carol was pretty cool, because it seemed like mere minutes after Carol killed that one guy with the spike or the spear through his sternum and in his chest. And then after she shot that guy Hero, right before the dude in the front passenger side of the truck woke up, those two popped up, and I guess she just ran off. I don't even think that she knew that they were coming, but she had taken off with her stuff and just ran. I also thought it was cool how Rick and Morgan figured out that those guys were saviors, particularly because of the fact that Rick recognized those spears that they were holding, because the dude from the hilltop, who is known in the comic books as Earl, created those spears because the hilltop didn't have that many guns, and I guess didn't have access to guns, so spears were the better idea to use. I thought it was pretty awesome how they came upon the dude with the armor. And the thing about him is, like they said in The Talking Dead, he could quite possibly be a member of a group called the Kingdom, whose leader is named Ezekiel. He's a really cool guy and has a really awesome friend. That's all I'm going to say. And Robert Kirkman said that Ezekiel's friend was coming, so I'm looking forward to seeing her. And the fact that the dude was like trying to get his horse solidified the idea to me that that guy had to be from the Kingdom, because in the comics, some of the people from the Kingdom ride horses. It's a really cool place, and I can't wait to see it all fleshed out on the show, because of the fact that like the hilltop was like pristine and it was just like damn near perfect in comparison to the comic. So I can see them doing the same for the hilltop, as well as the saviors. I'm gonna call it the sanctuary pretty much. What else? As far as that scene with folks trying to get Daryl. Now, the scary thing about that situation is that Daryl only went out to go after Dwight because he wanted to put an end to this situation. I guess he figured if he killed Dwight, then they would no longer have to deal with these saviors. Probably he figures they already killed Negan because all these people call themselves Negan, despite the fact that Negan is not dead. Not at all. And I cannot wait to see him, by the way, because he's so interesting. Despite the fact of what he does and what he might do, he's a really interesting character. I'll say that. Daryl doesn't know what happened to Carol, because like they said on Talking Dead, it took Tobin like 12 hours to finally show Rick the letter. Whereas Carol basically told him and was telling the rest of Alexandria that she had to bounce. So Daryl doesn't know anything about that. Now Daryl's injured. The others, Rosita, Glenn, and Michonne, came out to try to convince him to come back and to find him and to stop him from doing something crazy. But did you guys peep that scene? Whereas Abraham jumped in front of the car that Glenn was driving and said, "Do you have, or you should have, a space for my freckled behind?" You know what word he said. And all of a sudden Rosita was just like, no, I'm going. And some of you guys are probably like, well, why would she do that? Because she probably doesn't want to be at Alexandria at this point to see Abe and Sasha expressing their love to one another, on top of the fact that she's still grieving over Denise, because you saw how she was staring down at the ground where Denise's dead body had been. And it took them a minute to convince her to keep on walking. And then when they came upon Daryl, and Daryl was like, no. He's like, I got to do this. I'm not going back till I do this. Rosita jumped on board. So clearly Rosita's going through something, and I'm worried about Rosita as a character. Now, quite a few people are probably like, you know what? Michonne is probably going to die because she's tied up and she's next to Glenn, and rumor has it that this show said at the Walking Dead fan event that I went to in October that it was going to follow the comic books a lot closer as far as the storyline, but they never said 100%. We have no idea who's going to die via Lucille. We have no idea who's going to die at all in next Sunday's episode. I'm glad that Enid took over Maggie's shift, because clearly Maggie is under a heck of a lot of stress, which is the reason why she had those cramps. And just to reiterate, I don't think that she lost the baby. I do think that it has a lot to do with stress, and it's her body's way of telling her, listen, if you don't calm down, you will lose this baby. Maggie does cut her hair in the source material, and it does have a significance, one that we will talk about after everything plays itself out in the season finale. Just remind me to talk about it, and if I don't talk about it in the next review, I'll do a separate review just to discuss that one part. But I do like how Enid and Maggie are cool, and how they have warmed up to one another, and they are like sisters, because in the comic books, Maggie has a bond with Sophia, because Sophia lives in the comics, and she's like a mother figure to her, and it's what Sophia needed, and Maggie's companionship is what Enid needed. So you guys take care. Don't forget to rate this video. Leave me your comments. Let me know what you thought about this episode and the season so far, and who you predict is going to die at this point. I mean, it could be anybody, but I'm hoping and praying it's not who I think it is. Until next time, bye guys. I love you all. Bye.